Hi, Dana. How are you doing?
Man, I'm so excited to talk to you.
That's great. I'm excited to be here.
I am a huge Prince fan, so...
Good for you. Good for you.
That means I am so massively jealous of all the people you interviewed in this book, I can't stand myself.
I get that. Trust me, I geek out on it myself.
We're talking right now with Duane Tudahl. This book, which, by the way, I both own the hard copy and I have the audiobook, it's basically a deep dive into the 1983 and 1984 studio recordings, but it goes way, way bigger than the recordings, though.
Well, the book is, so people understand, what I did was the book is about what he did in the studio, but, like you were saying, it is a story about him and his rise from being a cult artist to the biggest success on the planet, biggest musician on the planet. And I was able to go back and interview, you talk about the people that are around him. I interviewed the entire Revolution. I interviewed members of The Time and other bands that are around him. This is the guy that recorded nonstop. In 1983 and 84 is when he did Purple Rain, and that's such a huge cultural milestone to have that happen.
And you were able to put these stories that we've all heard rumors of and actually prove that they were true, like the rumors that we've all heard for years about the whole Stevie Nicks Stand Back thing.
He actually recorded part of Stand Back. He was asked if he could, she wrote a song, and she was inspired by Little Red Corvette, and he said, okay, and he came by the studio, laid down some keyboards, that's his keyboards on that song, and then he left, and so she gave him half the publishing on that, because he inspired her and he recorded. I thought that's a story you don't hear very often. And one of the things I love about Prince, and one of the reasons why I wanted to write a book like this, is I'm a music fan. I'm a music nut. I love books about the Beatles or books about the Stones or things like that. But there's few people in music that are respected by both by the critics, by other musicians, and loved by the fans. You don't get that where you get Led Zeppelin, who was loved by fans but hated by critics, or
sure.
That kind of stuff. It doesn't work. Prince is one of those anomalies that got all three, and that to me is phenomenal. And the guy was better on any instrument than anybody in his band. He could go and say, "Let me see that guitar," and he'd play the guitar thing the way he wanted to hear it. Most people can't do that, and that to me is, how could you not write a book about that when you love that kind of stuff so much? So that's the way. It took 20 years working on this book. So
wow, 20 years, seriously.
Well, you got to love a subject if you're going to write 20 years on it. Woo! Yeah, exactly. I know, and I'm glad you like the book. It's fun to find people that like I said, nerd out like I am when it comes to this stuff, and then getting somebody like Questlove. If you don't know who Questlove is the drummer for The Roots, who's also on The Tonight Show, who's a huge music fan, to write the foreword for something like this. That to me makes me feel like, okay, somebody else gets it. Because you write a book in a vacuum, you hope people like it. But and I'm a documentary filmmaker, so to me, as I was writing this, I was thinking, how would this be as a documentary? How would, and so I wrote it as if it was a documentary. This is, a good documentary takes you someplace you don't get to go. And during this time, Prince was recording, and he wouldn't let anybody in the studio. And you kind of, as an exclusive club of very few people, and I interviewed 40 people that I said that were there in the room with him, engineers and band members and singers and the like. And you start to hear not only what he did and when he did it, but why he did it, why he wrote this song. He was sad, he was in love, he was angry, and he would do a song or two or even three in a day. And so you realize, holy cow, this guy just really he lived music. He was music. And so finding out what was involved to be like that is almost inspiring, not only as a musician, which I'm not, but as a writer or as a parent or something. When you realize somebody's so dedicated to this that they achieved this because they did it themselves, I think that to me is an amazing story.
Here's the one thing that I find very unique about this book, as not just compared to any other book about Prince, but any other book. I was able to consume this book in a way I've never consumed media before. Earbuds in, I have my hard drive full of Prince music. So as I read through the book and you told a story about when Prince recorded Wonderful Ass and who that song is about, boom, I am playing that song in my earbuds and I'm listening to it in a totally different way while I'm reading about the making of the song. And I went through song after song and it was amazing.
I had friends that would say that, and a lot of people got in touch with me and said, can you give me a list of what songs are where so that when I do this I can have a playlist and I know what to listen to. And I thought that's the coolest thing ever is that people found an interactive way to listen to the book and to enjoy the book. And I think once he passed, we all kind of looked through his music through the prism of his passing.
Right.
And when you're reading about why he did something, it takes you back to when he was alive and when he was vital and when he was at his peak, and you realize, oh my gosh, there's reasons behind this, and you start to hear the music fresh again. And yeah, you said when you're listening to that and going, Wonderful House, oh, that's why he did that, or Purple Rain, or that he was angry with Morris Day, and that's why he wrote this song, or Morris wasn't writing lyrics, or Morris brought this to the table, or those two just goofing off. You really kind of get a feeling for this is the guy. The coolest review I got from this was by Prince's former manager, and he read the book and he said, "This is the first book I've read that was the Prince I knew." And I thought, that is, when you hear the people that were there say that this book kind of captures his spirit, and you're never going to capture him truly, because there's always going to be, it's like Citizen Kane, there's always going to be a different version of the story from somebody else, because he would be this person, and that person to another person. But when you hear all the stories, and even some that contradict, it does give you an insight into what was a creative genius. And that, to me, is part of the fun of learning about somebody like that.
Who was your favorite interview? You interviewed some people that I absolutely adore.
There's several people, and mostly it's the engineers, because what the engineers bring to the table is, and the band members are there for a good chunk of things, but not always. An engineer is there a half an hour before Prince gets there and leaves a half an hour after him. So they're there for 18, 19 hours in the room with him. For a guy that's recording that much, they were there for weeks on end in a room alone with him oftentimes. And so they're telling stories about, well, Prince did this, or When Doves Cry, and this. He recorded all kinds of extra instruments, and you're going, holy cow, I didn't realize that it wasn't always a sparse song. He had all kinds of things. So when you talk to somebody like Peggy Mack, who as a kid I would see her name on albums, and Susan Rogers,
yes.
Again, I'd see their name on albums, and I'd go, and they're good people on top of it. They're the best people ever, and I love being around them. And that, to me, is part of the fun, is getting a chance to just kind of hear what they were doing, and again, when Prince was in a good mood this day, or he came in and he was in a rare mood and he was angry and he had, his shirt was open and he had a bandana tied around his leg, and that's why he recorded the song, and that's why it's so angry. And you're going, oh my gosh, that to me it makes me want to hear the music. And like you said, I go back and listen to the song, and I'm listening for those little details then. When I wrote the book, it came out last year, the book came out. I'm coming out with an expanded version this week, actually, that has an extra 30 pages in it, and it has new interviews with more Revolution. So I've got all the members of the Revolution in this right now. So it's got songs that I'd never heard of before, a song called Blue Love, and a song called The Dawn, and a song called I Am Five, that I'd never heard of before, that are now in the expanded version. So it's like a 500 and some odd page book. It's a big book, but like you said, it's a book that you kind of go through and you don't realize you're reading like 500 pages. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't quite, it kind of, you whiz by it. I've had friends that say they've read it in 2 or 3 days, just kind of, they couldn't put it down. And that to me, again, is a real nice compliment when you get Rolling Stone magazine saying it's a 4.5 star, or Record Collector magazine giving it 5 stars. That's, I'm a nerd who wrote a book in a room by himself for 20 years, and to have people really enjoy that's pretty fun.
Well, man, I am super happy that you wrote this book. And,
Thank you.
And I'm hoping you put another 20 years into, like, I don't know, maybe the Graffiti Bridge era or something.
Well, I'm working on a second book right now about 1985, 1986. Hopefully that'll be out sometime soon. But if people are looking for the book, they can find it in their favorite bookstores, and probably in bookstores they don't like as well. And it's also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and you can find me on Amazon. You can find me on Facebook. There's a group on Facebook about the book. I have a website, DuaneTudahl.com. It's DuaneTudahl. Look me up, say hi, and let me know if you have any questions. I love talking with stuff, so this is
Duane, thank you so much. As long as you keep making these books, I'm going to keep throwing my money at you, I promise.
Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day.
Man, thank you for taking time. I appreciate it, Duane. You have a great day.
You too.